there guys, I'm Bo Lorentzen, the Sailing 360 guy, and today we're back on an XS11 with James Lee, who is the captain and owner of this amazing boat. James is actually racing this boat, which is unusual for a catamaran, and he has went through, really studied up on the boat before he picked it up, and he has a lot of reasons why he is liking the XS11 and probably also the XS brand. So James, thank you for letting us look at your boat.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I know you're uniquely skilled. You're actually a captain.
A retired Navy captain and a Coast Guard master license captain as well.
That's, like I say, rare.
That's quite
rare. But that means you're not putting your crew at risk.
No, I'm also a sailing instructor, and safety is always top priority. And so, crew safety and equipment, I pay careful attention to that.
My pilot friends always says that an uneventful flight is the best kind.
Yes.
Actually, this is a lagoon, but it's not a lagoon.
Correct. I've sailed on plenty of lagoons, and when I sit on this and when I sail on it, it is not a lagoon. Well, one of the big benefits is that it sails. It doesn't sail like a typical cruising catamaran. I can tack.
Oh.
I can tack easily with it, and you can maneuver quite easily with it, and it handles very easily at the docks.
Wow, that's definitely not common for
right.
Cruising catamaran.
Cruising, right, especially for cruising cats.
How are you doing with the aft helm stations?
The aft helm stations are really wonderful. It makes docking much more intuitive, because you can be right at the dock, and also the helm stations puts you in the middle of the conversations in the cockpits. And the helm seats are very nice because you can have two people sitting there, and someone's at the helm and someone could be sitting right next to that person as well.
Which, I mean, I'm a monohull sailor. I feel the helm station should be back there.
Right, and you could have, if someone's on the helm on one side, you can have two other people on just sitting over on the other side too, and
kicking back and enjoying the ride.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Standard package came with the Marina system with an axiom plotter, a 12-inch on the starboard helm. I've added a 12-inch axiom here at the nav desk, as well as adding a rotary autopilot control head inside.
So you can drive from here?
Correct, you can drive from inside the cabin.
Why did you put an additional plotter rather than using an iPad?
Because this boat gets rented out for charter and also for sailing school. And from here, as opposed to being out there, I can put this on an articulating arm. I can move it around so people can see easily from here. But it's just one less step to dealing with a tablet from someone else to pair it with. Maybe
especially from someone else.
Yes.
Because if you had a tablet set up, it
might be different.
Enough.
Yeah. And so this one is just hardwired in, I connect to the network, and it's all ready to go.
I noticed how much rake you have on the mast.
Yes, yeah, you pointed that out, and I didn't notice that until you pointed out. So the rake really helps with upwind sailing.
Yeah, it must change the balance completely in the catamaran.
Yes, well, like I said, compared to other cruising cats, it sails upwind very well. I just had it on a race to Rounding Beg Rock. We were in 25 knots of wind, and
when I looked at the weather forecast, it said 2 knots.
that was in the bay. But once we got outside past Anacapa and Santa Barbara Island, it was blowing pretty hard out there. But we were on a close reach, doing 7.5 knots and 25 knots of wind.
Good fun. Did you reef?
No.
25 knots and
we're racing.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't reef.
Correct. But
I've been told.
Another part of it was to see how the boat feels, and obviously, if I felt that we were being overpowered, then obviously I would reef. But at no point did I feel that was an issue.
So you didn't feel the boat was about to get away from you?
No.
That's an important detail.
Yes.
Which really, and I'm going to skip down in my notes here because I have safety.
Yes. Yeah.
So 25 knots, you're okay.
Yes, I've sailed it in 30 knots open. And that was for just a few hours when we had one of these storms comes through. And I actually grabbed a few sailing students and said, hey, let's go.
And they're coming back?
Yes, they thoroughly enjoyed it. Because I wanted to do a little shakedown, wanted to see how the boat handled in 30 knots. And we did put one reef as a precaution, and it handled very well. I mean, we were the only boat out there, obviously, but
shakedown cruise is a good thing because it
yes,
gives you confidence.
I'm all into testing things, and I want to
break it while you're close to home.
Put time on it. Time is one thing, but also putting it through conditions that you might encounter out there is also important as well.
So on the safety thing, are monohull sailors that hate catamarans just flat wrong?
No, because I own a monohull. But so I see both the benefits of both, and I picked this model in particular because it can sail upwind, and it has very clean lines as far as boats go, and
it's a very pretty catamaran.
Oh, I get people from the club over there. They're at the bar. They'll send me pictures of my boat. Like, hey, I see
it
your
looks
boat.
nice.
Right.
Well, that was actually, I made a bullet points called the polar bear in the room. A while back, after the christening on this boat, we were having drinks, and I said, "Well, you couldn't take it through the Northwest Passage," and you go, "Of course you can."
Yeah.
Did you mean that?
Yeah, I think that's a doable, and I wouldn't feel
doable / safe is not necessarily always the same paragraph.
Yeah, I think this boat, especially after the drumming that I gave it this past weekend.
Norther, Blue Norther, this is LeMaire.
It handles well in heavy weather, upwind, and it actually has a little bit shorter rig than comparable other cruising catamarans, and the center of pressure is lower because there's no flybridge. And when you reduce the center of pressure of the sail area, that decreases the moment.
So you actually, because you don't have the flybridge or sail bridge, you still have that amount of sail, but it's been moved down.
Yeah, it's moved down. Correct. So I like the accessibility of the boom and the sail bag and the mainsail, because you don't have to reach up high because there's no flybridge. So the deckhouse roof is pretty much where the boom is, and it's an easy reach to access all the way to the end of the boom, all the way to the goose.
And you can walk there. You did not choose the retractable canopy.
Correct. I wanted a solid surface there so that it's accessible for the mainsail.
So you would do the Northwest Passage?
Oh yeah,
I'm bringing batteries.
Well, I'm going to put solar panels on this thing. So
solar panels.
Yeah.
And I think up there we can also do a wind generator.
You could. Around here, solar panels are the preference.
So you went. Oh, and you mentioned to me the electronic throttles.
Yes.
Versus a cable throttle.
Correct. Yeah. So electronic throttles are what you would find on a powerboat, and as opposed to single engine throttles on typically most sailboats with cables, this doesn't have the resistance that those throttles typically have. So it is something a bit getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. And also, if you're a powerboater, it's pretty intuitive on picking that up.
But me being a straight monohull sailboater, to be honest, I wouldn't want to jump on this without a type rating and some training.
Yeah, I mean, since you're already a boat owner and have plenty of experience on a monohull, within 5-10 minutes, you'll, with some instruction, within 5 or 10 minutes, you would be comfortable with it. and then just
I would probably say a
practice.
couple of hours, but but which brings us to still in the features. You were mentioning the Balsacore. I mean, a
Yes.
lot of people frown on Balsacore.
Right, and I have been in situations where I've seen water intrusion ruin balsa, and it's quite the repair job to take out all that balsa. But when I went to the factory, I got to see how everything is laid up, and what they showed me were criss-cut patterns in the balsa, and so when that's laid up against the hull and then vacuumed with epoxy, all those criss-cuts are epoxy barriers, and so if there's intrusion into the balsa core, it only goes so far, and you only have to dig out that much.
And then you still soak that when you're laying it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how about the storage on board?
Storage, for I know in the larger catamarans there's lots of storage. I felt that storage, wasn't really an issue here. I'd like to, try to improve on things by putting a storage bench.
I noticed that.
Right, or storage bench.
I like that one.
Yeah, they should have made this little footstool a storage bench.
XS 11.2
right.
will have, all the benches will have storage.
Right. But I felt, storage has been pretty adequate. I've taught a few classes on this, and obviously, this double-handed race this past weekend, we just, we had plenty of storage.
Well, double-handed, I mean, you each had your own sauna, basically.
Yeah, actually, we had our own hull. So.
That's not what I'm used to. So, talk about that. You put a microwave in.
Yes.
And how's the galley working for you?
So the galley is fine. Actually,
you told me you didn't take any of the cups and all the stuff up there. You
no,
just left it there for the race.
Yeah, the cups stayed up there. Even though when the boat was sailing upwind in the heavy seas, the cups stayed there. I put rubber feet on the microwave, and that stayed there. So it's not.
It didn't even slide?
No.
And my monohull, I mean, basically everything would have been on the other side of the boat.
Right.
And every time I tack, it would have.
And I didn't use any propane during this past weekend. We used the microwave and an electric kettle. There is a 2,000 watt inverter in there. I'm used to a 3,000 watt inverter. So, because if you wanted to use electric heaters, especially if you're motoring, that's free energy that you could use for that. So, yeah, it's right. Welcome to cruising catamaran life.
My goodness, I'm gonna have to wear white gloves and ask for caviar. So, you raised the boat. We already touched on that. It's about 10% lighter, and so you're basically saying it's not a lagoon with racing stripes.
No, it's for the same size lagoon. You just have so much more space in the living spaces.
But talking about that, I mean, the 11 is the first clean sheet design from XS.
Right.
And then the 14, I think, is the number 2 that's also a clean sheet.
Right.
And I noticed when I look at the pictures online that there's definitely a difference. There's more design decisions that is more modern in the clean sheet boats.
Yeah.
Not modern.
Well, simply because they've learned a lot.
And what about the keels? There's no dagger boards here.
Yeah, there are no dagger boards. The draft is just over 1 meter, so it's around 4 feet. And the keels are your classic cruising catamaran keels, and they're simply fiberglass with foam inside them.
And are you gonna naked coral or something? You're gonna have water sprouting in?
No. So I've seen the way they're constructed, and there's actually fiberglass and a watertight barrier between the keel and the hull. So even if you lose the keel, you maintain watertight integrity. And,
I would lose sleep if I saw my keel coming out.
Yes, you would, but you should still see your bilge as dry.
In a really sick way, that is also a safety feature, really, because if you're really, really, really stuck, you can afford to hurt that keel.
Correct, and I feel that the designers had that in mind, because keels do strike things, and boats do run aground. So.
Yes, I've sailed in Sweden and Norway, and they have rocks, not sand in the water.
Correct.
But all right, so safety, we like it. How much power do you have here, engine-wise?
So I have two Yanmar 29s on both sides.
And you're set up with two sails here up front. You have the racing sail on.
I have a spinnaker and then the self-tacking jib.
Self-tacking,
Yeah.
Not the big Genoa.
No,
Like
I ordered the pulse line package, and that's what came with it.
And that's
right.
Fantastic. Then you mentioned storage up front and the chain locker.
Yes, so we have two wet lockers here. There's an anchor locker here and a wet locker right there. And the wet locker has a washdown pump, which I used this past weekend, and you can switch between fresh and salt water.
That's actually convenient.
Yeah.
To get rid of it.
Right, or if you want to conserve your fresh water and you need to like hose down your anchor chain or whatever, that you
But
can
you
do that
surely
with-
have a water maker in this.
No, I don't. No, but I opted for the extra water tank, so,
So you're gonna be fine.
So I have two 80-gallon tanks of water here.
160 gallons.
Yes, yeah. Which for the race I unloaded most of that because I didn't want to be carrying that around.
Well, that's I know racers that have taken wood off the walls of their boats.
Right, and then the anchor locker, I like that very much because it's a deep anchor locker.
And you also got sail lockers up here.
Yes, they're up in the forward compartments of both hulls. There are lockers, but they're dry lockers, and you can use them for whatever. So I put the sail on that one, and you can put fenders and other things.
How's your experience with carrying a dinghy on the back?
The dinghy, I haven't had any issues other than making sure that it's high enough,
Out of the water.
because when we're really powered up or when I'm sailing very quickly, the wake can come up.
So it needs to be way up.
So you just need to make sure that the outboard prop is clear of that wake. Yeah. Or else you're going to see a dinghy full of water if you don't have the drain plug.
Yeah, that's a good thing to avoid. What else? Tell me, if you had to do this, if you were talking to the designers, what would you do different?
Gosh, I mean, I'd look at
You're an engineer. I know you have thoughts.
I would look at maybe how to make this thing faster. I mean, it's quick.
Skinnier waterline?
Well, then you're giving up all those queen size beds in the spaces.
Well, you can do queen size bed and then do that.
Maybe, but then you'd have some. It affects the buoyancy a little bit.
But that's really, catamarans in a nutshell is a compromise.
Yes, there are always compromises in these designs. Right. So one of the things that if you really wanted to increase the performance sailing upwind, because the keels are not that deep, dagger boards is something that if they put something like that on there, obviously this upwind performance would actually be improved.
Upwind performance, but the additional work to drive them correctly.
Right,
and most people might not do that.
No, and it's something. Yeah, and it's something that it's mechanical, and there are things that can go wrong, and it's just an extra little thing there. And the beauty about this is that we just did a double-handed race offshore.
Oh, is that 180 miles?
160 nautical miles, maybe 180 miles, in all kinds of conditions, and we double-handed it comfortably. We jibed the spinnaker with it. We managed sailing in hardly any wind to dealing with conditions up to 25 knots. Rain.
And you said I would single-handed.
Yeah, I would be comfortable single-handing this boat, especially with the helms being right at the aft of the hulls. Docking, single-handed, you just, in my slip, I just back into it, and I have the wind coming this way, and I would just step off and just tie the stern off, and it's all good.
Step off.
Yeah.
In terms of the layout here, we got two aft cabins and we got two front cabins. Are they adequate?
Yes. I haven't had all 4 cabins yet filled, but they're all queen-sized beds, and yeah, I slept. My crewmate and I slept very comfortably in this past race, and the classes I've taught, couples, they were surprised to see how much space they had.
It makes them happy about a
Oh
catamaran.
yeah. Well, and plus the windows and the visibility and the lighting was also very.
One of the features I do like a lot is the 2 heads, and they have chosen not to make it a 4-head experience. So by saving that, not having double heads on both sides, you get a lot more space.
And I like that because that's less things to go wrong.
less
Plumbing,
moving parts.
less moving parts, less pumps, less through holes, less hoses, less T-fittings, less hose clamps. I mean, things can go wrong.
So now, if you have watched this far, you're obviously boat crazy. Remember, you need to watch this in your VR headset, because you can look around, you can see around what's going on here, or you can drag and drop on your screen on the computer, on the phone. And of course, click like, click subscribe, and come back for more VR videos. James, thank you so much for letting me come on board the boat. And let's go grab some insert shots so we can show people what we're talking about here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Bo.